Is death the end or merely the passageway to another world? Every ancient culture believed the latter. The idea of death being a truly final event is a fairly recent one. Science, of course, has told us nothing about a supposed afterlife. Regardless of what you believe is actually true about death or life thereafter, one thing is undeniable. The human race seems to be predisposed to believe or hope for an afterlife. Whether this is a subconscious effect brought on by the evolution of the human imagination, or an innate trait left over from an almighty creator, is still a topic of debate in many religious and some scientific communities. Your assignment today is a thought experiment. Write a 2-page paper on how it would change your life if you knew there was an afterlife. At Alistair's secret facility, Michi is finally awake after being knocked unconscious and kidnapped after her brawl with Monarch, asking the question,
why does this keep happening?
A question that confuses Monarch, wondering if her senses left her, and Alistair also asking, this has happened to you before? He assumes she's trying to mask her fear by being clever, but he does believe that they have gotten off on the wrong foot and decides to properly introduce himself. Yup, she has definitely been here before. Alistair Morgan is the leader of the Ascension, a group of like-minded individuals who are seeking a better world.
And you're doing this with monsters?
A statement that Monarch is not too pleased with and just wants Alistair to get on with it and take the device from her, so they can go along with their plan. But that won't be so simple since the device, which is actually her Black Blossom suit, has imprinted to her, and if they remove it by force it will not work again. So Alistair politely asks Michi if she would be so kind as to remove it. Obviously her answer is,
I don't think so.
Leading to Alistair feeling the need to explain, starting with another question. Did you ever attend church as a girl, Black Blossom?
No.
I did when I was young. My mother took me. Oh, I loved the stories. Boys slaying giants, seas parting, fire from the sky, thrilling stuff. I never could quite get over the main character though, God. The all-powerful being who watches and waits for a slip-up and then whisks you off to hell for all eternity. Very unsettling.
What does this have to do with me or my suit?
I'll tell you. Like many, I abandoned those stories and that God and pursued my purpose through higher education. I was fascinated by the past, about man's history, our place in the universe. I suppose deep down, a part of me wanted to silence that nagging doctrine of my childhood, as it were, to solidify my conviction that there was no God looking over my shoulder, that I need not fear, that I could live my life in peace. Do you know what I discovered after having spent a decade of research and study? I was wrong. God is real.
What?
Years ago, a leading figure in the paleontological community had invited me on his latest dig. What no one expected was to change the world. What we found were dozens of human fossils mixed together with those of dinosaurs. The dying positions perfectly preserved in the rock. The humans had domesticated the beasts. Do you know what that means, Blossom?
That you're delusional?
Humor me. What does it mean?
That humans and dinosaurs existed at the same time?
Yes, go on.
That what we know about our dating methods or what we know about our evolution as a species is wrong?
Very astute. Either the human race was far older than we ever imagined, or the Earth was far younger. Considering the lack of evidence of millions of years of human development here on Earth, I believed the latter. The discovery of fossils was hidden by the government. They couldn't have a century of scientific progress be shattered overnight. These things take time, you understand. I, however, immediately set to work. If the Earth wasn't as old as we thought, then man's evolution as we know it would have been impossible. If man did not evolve, then he must have been engineered. We have no other plausible explanation. If he was engineered, then by whom? A cursory study of the various God legends around the world easily renders the Judeo-Christian God Yahweh as the one with the most historical evidence, pointing to an actual existence.
You can't be serious.
Deadly serious.
Okay, Jethro. Why don't we all put down our Bibles and pitchforks and take a breath?
Oh, believe me, Blossom, I was just as skeptical until I found him. The last thing I wanted to do was admit the stories I'd heard in my religious youth were true. A common alternative theory for man's origin is that we were somehow planted here by an alien race. So I set my vast fortune to scouring the heavens for signs of life using advanced technology years ahead of its time. Finally, I made contact with Monarch. Language was a barrier, but with time and patience, it was overcome. And once it was, oh, the things I learned. So Blossom, why conclude that God placed us here and not some advanced alien race? Well, because I found the aliens, and they share the same history with God as we do.
On the first day, the Creator made the light. On the second, the sky. On the third, the seas and the land. On the fourth, the cosmos. On the fifth and sixth, He filled our world with all manner of living things. After this, did we rebel.
Do you see? An alien race has recorded the same account of creation as we have. The odds of this being a coincidence is almost statistically impossible. No, God is our creator. He is real, you can be sure.
Well then go to church. What does this have to do with me?
Everything. The instant I discovered the truth, 1,000 other truths began to make themselves plain. If God was real, then so were heaven, hell, and all the rest. To our ancient ancestors, these were all mystical concepts, but today we know so much more about the universe. If heaven does exist, perhaps it's not some mystical realm, but another dimension of reality. Perhaps we merely lack the technology to gain access.
You want to go there, don't you?
Yes, and with the help of your suit, we will do it. We will take our paradise, but we will do it our way on our own terms, without the need to subscribe to some oppressive religious system. We will ascend.
Ah, there it is. Ascend. Ascension. I get it. Yeah, the name totally works.
You can take us there, Blossom.
Yeah, okay. Here's the thing, Chromeface. My suit can do a lot of stuff, but it can't take you to heaven.
You use a newfound trinket as a weapon, and a powerful one at that, but it could do so much more. Alistair and Monarch then go on to explain the origin of a suit, stating they constructed two sides of a door, one on each world. Every time they send something from one world to the next, it will leave a distinct energy signature in the world it arrived in, allowing for the item or person or thing to be located. Some of these include the lizard man that was captured by Crossbow, as well as Michi's suit, which is the most advanced piece of technology in the galaxy, aka the Omni tool according to Monarch, the product of a millennia of experimentation. The plan was for Monarch to bring it with him, but one of their tests failed and brought it to Earth ahead of time. It has the power to breach the fabric of the universe and open the kind of portal they need, but after hearing all of that, Michi still would not cooperate with them. So Alistair decides she probably needs more time to think things over. So he lowers Michi back down into her chamber as she vows to get her revenge. Flashback to years ago when Alistair was younger, he experienced the tragic passing of his mother from an illness. But even in her final moments, she placed her faith in God and told him, "Don't be afraid, Alistair. God is in control of all things. I'm going to heaven." But Alistair prayed and pleaded to God for his mother not to die, swearing that he will do anything he wants. But his prayers seemingly were in vain, and he grew bitter and angry towards God, rejecting any comfort and encouragement from his church leaders, stating, "No, either there is no God or he is a cold and unfeeling monster." But as we know, with his encounters with Monarch and research in his older years, he knows that God does exist. But this changes nothing. I reject you. Do you hear me? I refuse to bend to your so-called plan. I will do it my way. Alistair and Monarch once again reapproach Michi, with Monarch ready to just straight up kill her and take the suit off her body. But she is a bit calmer about the whole predicament than they expected, only for the alarm system of Alistair's facility to start off blaring. Turns out after what they told Michi about the full capability of a suit, she used it, I kid you not, to hack into the Wi-Fi of the facility and send an email to Crossbow, who is now running a full-on assault on Alistair's facility. Alistair sends Monarch to fight against the Crossbow's men, as he sort of now has to resort to threats to get Michi to comply.
Hit me with your best shot, Chief.
It's not you I'll be hitting. I pride myself on being prepared, Black Blossom. Perhaps you recap the satellite I mentioned. It's armed with several Moab missiles in case of emergencies. Help me now, or I'll send a few missiles down to that little city you love to protect so much. It's your choice.
And the Black Blossom is probably my best example of what you're talking about, where, I mean, it straight up presents the gospel, but the the characters, pretty much all the characters are coming in from a place of unbelief, and they are experiencing things that is forcing their hand to have to relook at their worldview. So it's not like, they've come across a preacher and the preacher's like, hey, let me share this with you. Oh my gosh, my life has changed. And sometimes that does happen in real life. But, I feel like it happens a little too often in Christian media. So with this, it's like this person, the person who is telling the Black Blossom that God is real is the villain. And she's like, you're insane and you're nuts and stuff. And then all of a sudden something happens where she is forced to say, all right, I can't explain that. And so I'm going to need to relook at some things. And so that I found was a good way to get to talking about those things in a natural way, even though it's a supernatural thing that happens in the comic book. But I think it's a much more organic way where she's not looking for it. She's not interested in it. But because of what happens, you kind of have to just stop and say, all right, I gotta think about this.
Evan's really good at taking lame concepts and making them cool. Because I'll just say, I don't know about that.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not. I don't know.
It is. So he'll.
I don't know if he's saying that you have lame concepts or what.
No, now I just trust. Now I just trust that it's going to be good. But I mean, early on, I was like, I don't know. That seems kind of cheesy, and then I read it and I was like, that was really cool. Or I don't know, maybe you should go with a different idea. Oh, that was really cool. Okay, so it's like you're kind of thrown off a little and you think, oh, he's gone down the wrong idea hole, and then you check it out and you're like, I actually like that was really cool. So now I just trust what he's going to do is going to be good, even though for a minute you might go, I don't know about that. But that's why I encourage everybody to read his stuff, because it's very surprising.
So let's put Black Blossom number 4 on our Christian fiction judgment scale, pulling in our signature theological basis category for the first time in the series for obvious reasons. So starting with the story, I'll give it a 5 out of 5. Shout out to my sister for lending her voice as the voice of Michi so that we were able to do Evan David's concept justice. I really like the concept he went for here. The dialogue and exposition, I can't stress enough, was a lot of fun to read through. I mean, Evan David, just as Joe Spicer said in the Starcross interview on Luke Stone's channel, has a way of somehow turning the cringe fest style Christian ideas into an entertaining and fun read. At first in my initial reading, I was like, oh boy, what kind of conspiracy theory sounded chain are we going on here? Oh! I personally enjoyed this entire issue, especially how it answered and satisfied all the intrigue and mystery that was built up in the prior issues. This for sure is up there with what he did in Parables of the Remnant Special Edition number 1, in my opinion. The dialogue, just like he did in Parables of the Remnant Special Edition number 1, is for sure quite heavy-handed in the atheist versus Christian debate category that some may very well consider it to be a religious pamphlet in disguise. Yes, Anna, if you're watching this video, that's a shout out to you, my guy. And in my opinion, this is one of the best religious pamphlet in disguise comics by the best religious pamphlet in disguise writer that I've come across. So moving on to artwork and creativity, I'll give it a 5 simply for the approach on why I'll give it a 5 in the theological basis category. And I feel like all I need is one scripture. James 1 verse 19. You believe that God is one, you do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. The concept of an atheist or agnostic character becoming a quote-unquote villain because they came into contact with a demon, well, extraterrestrial being or rebellious being from another realm, however you want to spin it, which leads to them firmly believing that God exists, but instead of coming to Christ, they sort of become a mesotheist.
Misotheism is less a theological proposition than a philosophical perspective. It says nothing about what God himself is like. He might be the Jewish Elohim, or the Christian Trinity, or the Muslim Allah, or Paul Blart Mall Cop. Regardless of which God is real, misotheism is the belief that we should feel only contempt towards God. Of course, most misotheists aren't Bible-believing fundamentalists proudly marching their way to hell just to prove a point. They're atheists and agnostics who conjure an evil deity to explain their hostility towards a God whom they don't believe actually exists.
With the aim of ascending and invading heaven to stick it to God, which then, through him, another atheist agnostic style character is brought to the crossroad of believing in God because of the insurmountable evidence presented before them, is such a unique concept, at least from what I have come across based on the Christian fiction that I have covered on this channel, that it would be a crime, in my opinion, to not give it a 5 out of 5 on our scale. I'm not going into the whole young Earth versus old Earth, did dinosaurs exist in the antediluvian period, nor the topic of current studies that are poking holes into the theory of evolution and natural selection and all these other debates. You are free to comment on that down below. As for me, I'm just sticking on Alistair's development as a character and how they brought God into the mix of it all after 4 issues. So for the final category of my enjoyment and recommendation is a 5 out of 5. Definitely looking forward to what comes next and where they will go from here. So overall, Black Blossom issue 4 gets a 5 out of 5 from the Xplanations. Link to purchase the comic will be in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, then why not consider leaving a like on it and subscribing for more reviews and coverage of comics made by professing believers. If you enjoyed the video to the point you want to check out another one on the channel, then be sure to click the card at the top right hand corner of your screen to check out the Black Blossom reviews if you haven't, or click the end card to check out how another Christian comic book series explained their quote unquote villains and their motivations.